I was going to propose to her. I had already chosen the restaurant, ordered the ring, written the speech. And then I accidentally opened her laptop and saw the conversation. "I'm using him while I need him," she wrote to her friend. "When I get half of his business, I'll leave him." I met Sophia at a marketing conference in Chicago 3 years ago. She was presenting a case study on social media engagement, and I was captivated not just by her intellect but by the confident way she commanded the room. When she smiled, her eyes lit up with a warmth that made you feel like you were the only person who mattered. After her presentation, I mustered the courage to introduce myself. "Your insights on demographic targeting were brilliant," I told her, extending my hand. "I'm Nathan Ward." "Sophia Miller," she replied, her handshake firm. "And flattery will get you everywhere, Nathan." We exchanged business cards and ended up talking until the venue staff started stacking chairs around us. That night, I took her to dinner at a small Italian place overlooking Lake Michigan. The conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about marketing strategies, our career aspirations, and the businesses we dreamed of building. "I've always wanted to start my own agency," I confessed over tiramisu. "Something boutique but impactful." "You should," she said, leaning forward. "I can see it already, Ward Marketing Solutions. It has a nice ring to it." Her belief in me was intoxicating. Within 6 months, I had quit my corporate job and launched my company, with Sophia cheering me on every step of the way. The early days were tough, working from my apartment, cold calling potential clients, stretching my savings to the limit. But Sophia never wavered. "This is just the beginning," she would say, massaging my shoulders as I worked late into the night. "You're building something special, Nate. I believe in you." By our 1-year anniversary, I had landed 3 major clients. By 18 months, I had rented a small office space and hired 2 employees. And by the 2-year mark, Ward Marketing Solutions was managing campaigns for 12 businesses across Illinois and Wisconsin. "You should join the company," I told Sophia one night as we celebrated landing a contract with a major retail chain. "We'd be unstoppable together." She accepted immediately, taking over client relations while I handled strategy and creative. Our personal and professional lives became completely intertwined. I gave her access to everything: the company financials, client contacts, even my personal accounts. We moved in together, pooling our resources and our dreams. "We're building our empire," she would say, kissing me before we fell asleep. Together. I believed her. I trusted her completely. Last month, I decided it was time to make it official. I researched engagement rings for weeks, finally selecting a 3-carat diamond set in platinum. I made reservations at Alinea, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants. I even practiced my proposal speech in front of the mirror when Sophia wasn't home. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. Sophia had left for a client meeting, and I was working from our apartment. Her laptop was on the coffee table, and I needed to check an email we had received from an important client. We often used each other's devices, there were no boundaries between us. When I opened her laptop, a messaging app was already running. I didn't mean to read her conversation with her friend Jessica, but a string of words caught my eye: Nate, and business, and divorce. My finger hovered over the trackpad, my conscience battling with a growing sense of dread. I shouldn't read her private messages. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. I scrolled up. "Jessica, how long are you planning to keep this up?" "Sophia, I'm using him while I need him. When I get half of his business, I'll leave him." "Jessica, that's cold, soft, even for you." "Sophia, it's business. He's naive enough to think I actually love him. The company is worth nearly $2 million now, and my name is all over the paperwork. My lawyer says in Illinois I can claim at least 40% of the business value even without marriage. With marriage, I could get more." "Jessica, what if he finds out?" "Sophia, he won't. Nathan sees what he wants to see. He thinks I'm his soulmate or something. It's almost too easy. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room seemed to tilt as I kept reading, learning that the client meeting today was actually with her lawyer, discussing how to maximize her claim on my business. She was laying groundwork, documenting hours, creating evidence of her essential role in the company's growth. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. 3 years. 3 years of what I thought was love and partnership. 3 years of building a life with someone who saw me as nothing more than a means to an end. I needed to be sure. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was an explanation. The next day, I pretended everything was normal. I kissed her goodbye in the morning, told her I loved her. Then I called a private investigator recommended by my college roommate, who worked in corporate security. I need phone surveillance, I told him. Just for a few days. He didn't ask questions, just quoted a price that made me wince. But I needed to know. 2 days later, I had my answer. The PI sent me a recording of Sophia talking to Jessica in our car. They must have been driving to lunch. You're sure he doesn't suspect anything? Jessica's voice was tinny through the car's speaker. Absolutely. He's naive. Thinks I'm his perfect partner. Sophia laughed, a sound I used to love. I've got another meeting with the lawyer next week. He says if I can document that I've been integral to major client acquisitions, I can push for 50%. What if he proposes before you're ready to pull the trigger? Even better. I'll say yes, of course. Marriage just strengthens my position. Jessica's voice dropped lower. You're ruthless, you know that. It's just business, Sophia replied. Besides, he'll be fine. He's talented. He'll build another company. And you'll be set up with $1 million for doing nothing. Not nothing, Sophia objected. I've had to sleep with him for 3 years. They both laughed. I felt cold. Empty. But somewhere inside me, a different emotion was taking root. It wasn't just anger. It was resolve. I spent the next week researching, planning, making calls. I visited a corporate attorney who specialized in business protection. I contacted my accountant. I spoke with trusted clients. I didn't cry, didn't rage. I channeled everything into methodical preparation. The first step was changing the company structure. I created a new LLC with an anonymous partner, actually my cousin in Denver, who agreed to serve as a paper owner. We drafted documents transferring all intellectual property, client contracts, and business assets to the new entity. Ward Marketing Solutions would become a shell, while Ward Strategic Partners would hold all actual value. Next, I moved our operational funds to new accounts that Sophia couldn't access. I did it gradually, explaining to our bookkeeper that we were restructuring for tax purposes. Then I approached our employees individually. We had grown to 12 staff members, all of whom respected me as the founder. There's going to be some organizational restructuring, I told each of them. I'd like to offer you a position with the new entity. Same role, slightly better benefits. Every single one signed on. Most didn't even question why Sophia wasn't involved in the discussions. The trickiest part was the clients. Many had personal relationships with Sophia, and I couldn't risk her hearing about the changes prematurely. I created a narrative about tax efficiency and scaling opportunities, reassuring them that their day-to-day contacts wouldn't change. New contracts were signed, transferring their business to the new entity effective immediately. Throughout all of this, I maintained perfect normalcy with Sophia. I complimented her presentations, asked her advice on campaigns, made love to her at night while fantasizing about the moment she would realize she had been outplayed. Finally, after 3 weeks of meticulous preparation, everything was in place. I confirmed my reservation at Alinea, the same table where I had planned to propose. I have a surprise for you, I told Sophia that morning. Wear something beautiful tonight. Her eyes lit up with calculated excitement. A special occasion? The most special, I replied, kissing her forehead. That evening, she emerged from our bedroom in a black dress that highlighted every curve, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. She looked stunning, and for a moment, I felt a pang of what might have been. You look incredible, I said, and I meant it. At the restaurant, we were seated at a corner table with a view of the Chicago skyline. Sophia looked around appreciatively, taking in the Michelin-starred setting. This is amazing, Nate, she said, reaching for my hand across the table. What are we celebrating? I've been doing a lot of thinking about our future, I began, maintaining eye contact. About where we are and where we're going. She leaned forward slightly, a practiced look of adoration on her face. I wondered how I had ever been fooled by it. These past 3 years have been educational, I continued. I've learned so much about business. About trust. About people's true natures. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her features. This wasn't following the script she had anticipated. Nathan? What are you saying? I reached into my jacket pocket and removed a folded document, placing it on the table between us. You're fired, Sophia. She blinked, the words not registering immediately. What? You no longer work for Ward Marketing Solutions. In fact, Ward Marketing Solutions no longer exists in any meaningful way. The clients, the contracts, the intellectual property, it's all been transferred to a new company that you have no connection to. Her face transformed as understanding dawned. You can't do that. I'm a partner. I have rights. Actually, you don't. You were an employee. Check your paperwork. You never had equity, despite what you may have told your lawyer. Her hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. You went through my computer. Yes. And my phone conversations? Those too. It's just business, right? That's what you told Jessica. Well, this is just business too. The color drained from her face. Nathan, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. I heard it all. How you've been using me, planning to take half my company, laughing about how naive I am. I leaned closer. Who's naive now, Sophia? Her shock gave way to anger. You won't get away with this. I have documentation, records of my contributions. To a company that has no assets and no clients, I finished for her. Your documentation is worthless. I'll sue you, she hissed, her beautiful face contorted with rage. I'll take everything. You're welcome to try. My lawyers are expecting it. I stood up, placing several $100 bills on the table to cover a meal we wouldn't be eating. One more thing, I need the keys to the apartment by tomorrow. The lease has been transferred to my name only. Your belongings will be in storage. The access code will be texted to you. She grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You can't just discard me like this. We had a life together. I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. No, Sophia. We had a transaction. And it's complete. As I walked out of the restaurant, I felt strangely hollow. The weeks of planning, the perfect execution of my revenge, it should have felt satisfying. Instead, I just felt tired. The legal battle that followed was brief but vicious. Sophia hired an aggressive attorney who made grand claims about her entitlement to the business. But without documentation linking her to the new entity, and with the original company essentially worthless, she had no leverage. She tried reaching out to clients, but most were confused by her claims. As far as they were concerned, they had always worked primarily with me, and their contracts were now with a different company altogether. She attempted to contact our employees, but their loyalty remained with me. Several admitted that she had always been somewhat distant, more focused on high-profile meetings than on building relationships within the team. 3 months after that night at Alinea, I received a final email from her. "You've ruined my life, Nathan. I hope you're satisfied." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I threw myself into growing the new company, working 16-hour days and expanding into new markets. On paper, everything was successful. Revenue was up 40% over 6 months. We moved into larger offices downtown. I was featured in Chicago Business as an entrepreneur to watch. But at night, alone in my new penthouse apartment, I would sometimes pull out the engagement ring I never returned, a tangible reminder of how completely I had been deceived. I would think about the woman I thought I knew, the future I had planned, the trust one had given so freely. The victory felt hollow. I had outmaneuvered her, protected what was mine, but something fundamental had broken inside me. Not my heart, that had hardened into something unrecognizable. No, what broke was my belief in people, in connection, in the possibility of genuine partnership. 6 months after Sophia, I received a text from Jessica, of all people. "She's moving to LA, thought you should know she's finally giving up the fight." I didn't ask why Jessica was telling me this. Maybe guilt. Maybe she'd been collateral damage in Sophia's downfall, losing a friend to bitterness and obsession. That night, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city and raised a glass to lessons learned. I had protected my company, my creation. I had exposed a predator before she could strike. By any objective measure, I had won. So why did winning feel so much like losing? I placed the never-given engagement ring on the balcony ledge, watching it sparkle in the city lights. With one finger, I pushed it over the edge, not waiting to hear it land 60 floors below. Some prices are too high, even for justice. Some victories leave you wondering who really won after all.